Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into, well, a truly thought-provoking topic. It's actually born from the intense dedication of a creator who, even while working these insane 17-hour days, finishing their fifth book, still carves out time for these really profound ideas, that kind of commitment. It really sets the stage for what we're about to unpack. So our mission today is to explore this question. It's both deeply personal, but also really universal. It's about the fundamental differences between religion and philosophy. And our source materials creator, they don't pull any punches. They claim there's an abyss between them, like fundamentally irreconcilable foundations. Get ready, because we're going to challenge some assumptions, look at things like freedom, obedience, and how we actually form our beliefs. Should be interesting.
Yeah, and what's fascinating right from the get-go is how stark this contrast is painted.
Yeah.
The source basically posits that philosophy, its whole foundation, it's built on reason.
Completely.
Free inquiry, asking questions all the time, observing, logic.
Right, just following the thought wherever it leads.
Exactly. The philosopher, in this picture, moves forward without these external constraints. It's curiosity, the search for wisdom, that's the guide.
And that just stands in such sharp contrast, doesn't it, to how the creator describes religion's foundation, which is presented as, well, faith, obedience, submission to a divine authority. What really jumps out at me is that claim that within religion, asking questions isn't just like curiosity. It's often framed as rebellion or even blasphemy.
That's a key part of the argument.
And the source suggests there's this real threat of punishment tied to it, both here and maybe later. Is that the abyss they're talking about, that threat?
Precisely. That perceived threat is presented as absolutely foundational to the divine. See, in philosophy, you're actively encouraged to question everything, even the things you hold most dear.
Okay.
Disagreement isn't just tolerated, it's seen as vital. It helps refine ideas, helps you grow intellectually.
No punishment for disagreeing.
Right. But the source argues that religion, particularly, the big monotheistic traditions.
Like Christianity, Judaism, Islam.
Yes. The argument is that ultimate authority rests with the divine. And questioning that authority, or its rules, can be seen as defying God himself. So how inquiry is treated welcomed versus potentially punished, that's a huge part of this claimed chasm.
Okay, so if the foundations are that different, fundamentally different as the source claims, what does that actually mean for something as basic as freedom?
Well, it leads us right into this core tension, doesn't it? Freedom versus obedience. Philosophy, as presented here, it champions this relentless questioning, even if it shakes your deepest beliefs.
It invites it.
It invites it, exactly. There's no penalty for intellectual dissent, no anathema. It needs debate, diverse opinions to thrive.
That's a very direct contrast the source is drawing. Now, someone might argue, perhaps, that obedience in religion isn't always blind submission. Could it be seen as, say, devotion or a path?
That's a fair point to raise. Does the source acknowledge that?
Does it? Or is it purely framed as kind of a control mechanism?
The source definitely leans heavily towards the control interpretation. It argues that these religions demand total obedience. They're laws. They're presented as perfect, eternal. You cannot question them.
Okay.
And if you disobey, or even just doubt, well, that's met with condemnation, maybe even the threat of damnation. And this is where the creator brings in that really powerful analogy, the master-slave analogy.
Ah, yes. That's quite stark.
It is. The argument is simple. True freedom just can't exist if you're constantly under the shadow of severe punishment.
And the aha moment there, for me at least, isn't just how blunt that analogy is, but the challenge it throws down about choice. Like, if the alternative is eternal damnation, is choosing the right path truly a free choice, or is it kind of compelled?
That's exactly the point the source is driving at, this master-slave thing. It's not just about physical chains. The implication is that any system using the ultimate threat, eternal suffering, severe punishment, it inherently subordinates your will.
Even if you feel like you're choosing freely?
Right. It suggests that even if you think you're choosing, the sheer weight of that consequence makes it a choice driven by compulsion, not genuine uncoerced liberty. It's about whether the choice is truly free from that ultimate threat.
It's quite a sobering thought, isn't it? The idea that maybe, just maybe, we prefer not having the full weight of thinking for ourselves.
It is.
Yeah.
And the source suggests this points to something deep in us, maybe a primal tendency to seek structure, guidance, even if it costs us some intellectual autonomy.
Yeah.
And the source makes a pretty bold claim about society here. It says, look, many people actually prefer having masters, whether that's a religious leader, a holy book, maybe even, secular rulers. Because the responsibility that comes with real intellectual freedom, It's scary.
It's easier to follow.
It can feel easier, yes, than leading your own thoughts, charting your own course.
And this connects to that critique about ancient laws, which is also pretty provocative. The source isn't just saying these laws are old, they're asking, essentially, if these divine laws are meant to be perfect and eternal, why do they seem to reflect the often brutal realities of the times they came from?
Exactly. Things like slavery, violence, practices many would find inhumane today.
So it forces you to look critically at this idea of unchanging divine law in a world where our morals do seem to evolve.
Right, and it ties directly back to why people might still seek external authority even as society moves on from some of those older codes. The source observes this pattern. Even when we discard old rules, we often still look for authority figures to tell us what to do. It raises a big question. Is there a fundamental human need for someone else to lay down the rules?
Okay, so the foundations are different. The concept of freedom is framed differently.
Right.
What about dialogue? How does communication, persuasion, how does that work in each sphere according to the source?
Again, a sharp distinction is drawn. Religion, the source claims, often discourages truly open dialogue because the priority is conformity to doctrine. It's less about free-flowing discussion and more about ensuring acceptance. Threats or punishments might be used implicitly or explicitly to enforce that.
Okay, so conformity over conversation, potentially.
That's the suggestion. Whereas philosophy, in contrast, is described as welcoming free counsel, like an open invitation.
And if you reject philosophical teachings, what happens then?
Nothing punitive, there's no damnation, no condemnation. The only consequence, according to this view, is perhaps missing an opportunity for enlightenment or for gaining wisdom. It's an offer, not a command.
Which leads us to that really interesting paradox around free will. In religion, the source argues you're told you're free to choose, but choose wrong, and you face potentially eternal agony. How is that truly free?
Well, that's the core of the paradox they present, isn't it? The choice exists technically, but the consequences for one path are so extreme.
It sort of pushes you.
It arguably compels a specific choice, which undermines the free part. Now, in philosophy, particularly Stoicism, which the creator seems to favor.
Right, they mentioned Stoicism.
Yeah, free will is presented very differently there. For anyone less familiar, Stoicism often emphasizes that external things are beyond our control, but our real freedom is internal.
How we react.
Exactly, how we choose to interpret events, how we respond to them. The source seems to tap into that Stoic idea. Free will is this sacred internal ability to choose your beliefs, your actions, your responses without that external coercion or threat. It's about inner self-mastery.
And this seems to tie into a broader point the speaker makes, a critique about, societal conditioning. They express this concern, this lament almost, that many people today are, in their words, dumbed down, easily manipulated by propaganda, maybe too scared to think for themselves.
Strong claim.
They even use the example of war narratives, suggesting people get deceived into supporting things that are harmful because there's a lack of maybe philosophical rigor or just the courage to question the dominant story.
Yeah, and why do they feel so strongly about this dumbing down? What's the root issue they seem to be pointing at?
That's a good question. What is the core issue there?
I think for the source, the core issue is a deep lack of critical thinking. A willingness to just, accept narratives fed to us without really digging in ourselves. They see it as a consequence, maybe, of a society that hasn't prioritized that kind of tough, self-questioning and open debate that philosophy really stands for.
And that lack of independent thought makes people vulnerable.
Vulnerable, exactly, to control, whether that's from religious institutions, political figures, media, you name it.
It's interesting how this connects to the distinction they make between natural law and divine law. What's the key difference in where the authority comes from?
Yeah, that's where it gets really clear. Natural law, as describe it, is seen as incorruptible. It's accessible to everyone universally.
Yeah.
You don't need special rituals or confessions or priests.
How do you access it then?
Through reason, through observing the world and human nature. Its authority, the source claims, comes from its own inherent purity and goodness, not from threats or force.
Okay, derived from reason and observation.
Right. Now, divine law, as typically found in religions, is portrayed very differently. It's often enforced by fear. You might need intermediaries, priests, scriptures to even access or understand it. And critically, the source points out, sometimes these divine laws clash with what we might consider just or moral today. Its authority is top-down, decreed from above.
So we've laid out these pretty deep distinctions drawn by the source, but What's the takeaway for us listening to this? It's not just critique, right? There's an encouragement there too.
Absolutely. The source doesn't just tear things down. There's a strong encouragement for everyone to actively choose their own beliefs, but to do it with discernment. The creator even makes a point of saying they publish opposing views on their own platform.
Oh, that's interesting. Why?
Not because they endorse those views, but specifically to foster critical thinking, to let the audience weigh the arguments and judge for themselves.
So modeling the philosophical approach.
Precisely. It underscores their belief that real philosophical practice isn't about forcing beliefs on people through fear or coercion. It's about offering a path to virtue, to understanding, that people choose willingly based on their own commitment to truth. It's a call for intellectual self-reliance.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, the central takeaway from our source material seems really clear. Philosophy and religion, they aren't just presented as different. They're framed as fundamentally opposed in how they approach truth, freedom, authority. You've got philosophy on one side, characterized by, well, freedom of inquiry, welcoming disagreement, no threats involved.
Right. And then you have traditional religious forms, which, as the source argues, often rely on fear, demand obedience, and stick to these fixed codes that sometimes came from very different, even violent ancient contexts. The real aha here, I think, is realizing the creator isn't just comparing belief systems. They're dissecting two fundamentally different ways of thinking and being. One built on, you could say, courageous inquiry, the other on faithful submission.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty profound question to chew on. How does this tendency, which the source sees in various societal structures, religious or secular, to discourage independent thought, to kind of push conformity and maybe hold back personal growth, how does that challenge you personally to actively cultivate critical thinking in your own life? Think about that responsibility you hold for the beliefs you choose to accept or the ones you choose to reject.
I had very bad luck. I tried to record this already and it didn't work. I was talking about my day, 17 hours. I did write a lot of my Stoic books. I'm already 300 pages in. Normally I start publishing my fifth book at 350 pages, so it's not so much left. And I want to talk about a subject today. It is that there's a difference between religion and philosophy. And the last video I published on my channel says that the difference isn't huge, and philosophy and religion is the same, and they use the same way of argumenting and talking and convincing people. And I really don't agree with it. So I have a text that I tried already to read you, but unfortunately my glasses don't sync correctly. I will try again this time. There's an abyss between reason and faith. Philosophy and monotheistic religion rest on irreconcilable foundations. The former on free inquiry, philosophy, the latter on submission to a scold, divine, relieved truth. Either you believe in the relieved truth or you believe in philosophy, but you cannot have both, which can unite these two worlds. They're totally apart, one from the next. Philosophy is free reason. The philosopher questions everything, even his dearest certainties. He advances without constraint, guided by observation and logic, that is, by reason. We believe in reason and logic. We do not believe in believed divine law by somebody on a mountain who sees a small trees in fires and has something you would nowadays call an hallucination. We do not believe in that. We believe in reason and logic. And because I've worked 17 hours a day and because this recording didn't start early and a couple of other things, now it's quite dark and I only have the light of my camera. You won't see much, but I try to do my best. And this is real dedication. After being up already maybe 17 hours and working with non-stop, I still find the time to make a vlog with you, and I do my best with all the technological issues that I have to face with my smart glasses and so on. Religion, total obedience. Religion is just total obedience. Faith demands complete submission to God and His commandments. To question these orders is to place oneself in rebellion, a blasphemy. It won't end well for you if you question those orders. It doesn't end well in a lot of countries while I'm speaking, and it doesn't end well in general. You will get punished on earth and for the rest of eternity. They hate everything that is not themselves. And philosophy is the opposite. I don't mind your opinions. I don't mind what you say. I don't mind what you think. I know that nobody agrees with me, On my channel, I have now 1K subscribers. I'm the most astonished person on earth because I talk about hard subjects. I talk about difficult questions. I bring you intellectual things that you have never heard about. Normally, people should hate that. They should hate it. Even if I would get only one subscriber who watches my videos, I would already be very surprised. Now, that I have 1K is really surprising. Probably a lot of them are just bots. No, I'm kidding. I know that some of you are real human beings, and you're not all Robbie zombies, NPCs. I know that. But a lot of people are nowadays, if you look around. God commands, man obeys. In the monotheistic view, man is not God's equal. His role is to obey without discussion. That's not a philosophical approach at all. It's the opposite of it. It's indoctrination. Divine law deemed perfect, eternal, and impossible to alter. The believer cannot debate them without renouncing his faith and damning himself to hell and incurring cruel and atrocious punishments in this world. Where's the philosophy in that? Dialogues excluded by threat. There's no more dialogue as soon as you start threatening people. I never threat anybody. And they are very respectless against me. They're irrespectful against me. They get really offended because I have a different Weltanschauung, because I think different and I talk different than most people. And they get very offended by that. Even with my friends, it's not easy. Now, what makes it go most of the time is that I'm very tolerant. And I don't mind if you think differently than me. I just expose you in an humble and polite way, my opinion. And you can think whatever you want. Dialogue excluded by threat. There's no more dialogue when there's threat. Fear of punishment replaces the sincere research of truth. One does not engage in dialogue with God. One bows before his authority, submission or damnation. You are playing with submission. In religion, you're playing with submission or damnation. Disobedience leads to earthly condemnation and eternal hell. This is the keystone of religious obedience. Without it, there is no religion. You have no more religion if you can disobey. If you can do whatever you think, then there's no more religion. And we should talk about free will. I do that in my 5th book. And I believe in free will. Not everybody does. Not every scientist believes in free will. I do. But I do not believe in free will of the Bible. And to explain you that is really hard, and it's not the subject I'm talking about. But there's no real free will if you get punished atrociously. It's like if I tell my slave to make it short. And I'm giving you the stuff that's in my book. You should read my book, and I should not give it to you all for free. But it's like if my 5th book is not published yet. People run loud music. And when you run loud music, it gets striked because of copyright. The guy next to me who runs his favorite popular music, I get striked. That's annoying. And they just start whenever they want. And they think everybody wants to listen to music they play. I was talking about submission or damnation. Disobedience leads to earthly condemnation and eternal hell. This is the keystone of religious obedience. Without it, there is no religion. If it wouldn't be like this, then it wouldn't be a religion. At least not a monotheistic religion. Maybe another religion, but not a monotheistic religion, where I talk to you about damnation. Violence as authority. Monotheistic religions have always imposed their law through force and terror. This is the opposite of philosophical dialogue. So I don't know why this is so hard for people to understand. Just open a history book. Just look what happens in a church or anywhere else. And you will find out very soon and very fast. It is the opposite of a philosophical dialogue. And that's why I could never go with it. That's why I could never be convinced. Because you cannot argue. There's no logic. There's no reason behind it. There's just a guy telling you, my God said so. And if you don't obey, you go to hell. I mean, that's not interesting, especially when you look at what he thinks is God's divine law. Well, then you're very shocked. Religion uses fear, not persuasion. They don't want to convince you. They cannot convince you. I mean, people wouldn't believe in that very long. It's like telling people you have to throw somebody in a volcano, a young girl in a volcano. Well, Maybe they go for it for a certain time, but they will grow up, they will grow out of it. They will start thinking and reasoning and realize that it is evil. You tell me not every religion does that. Well, look into a history book and realize what really happened. It is fear, not persuasion. Adherence comes from deep fear, not conviction. Threats destroy freedom of thought, and with it, dialogue and the research of truth. Because of those threats that you use, just because you cannot argue, you cannot have a discussion, because you cannot be polite to somebody, you destroy the search of truth. You only defend your dogma. And if people don't agree with it, they get punished. That is the opposite of philosophy. I'm very surprised that people still make articles and lie to you and want to make you believe that philosophy and religion is the same. I published one of them on my channels, just so you get a different perspective. But I'm really astonished that people can do that and lie straight to your face. It's an illusion of a religious debate. I'm very unlucky because wherever I go, people put on their stereo system and they make it very long. And then the copyright music ends up on my video and it's will pay. I cannot post it if they start putting the stuff on. There's always somebody who has to put on very loud music. You cannot just be in a park, take a walk or go for a run. You have to put very loud music and everybody has to listen to, even if he doesn't want. Anyways, I was saying, because I think I said it already, but because of the music, I have to do it again. It's an illusion of religious debate. And now it's dark, as you can see. The exchanges proposed by religious figure, Jesus, Moses, or Muhammad, serve only to bring the soul back within the framework set by divine law. Yes, they argue sometimes, but only to bring you back. Only that you obey their divine law. That's the only reason why they argue. There's never a true questioning of the doctrine or its legitimacy. You have to obey it. You have to come back to their divine law. And you don't have to question it. That's blasphemy. That's very bad. Ancient, cruel, unjust law. And we are talking about ancient, cruel, unjust law. These rules were established in primitive societies marked by slavery and sacred violence. We had slavery, stoning, and holy wars. Applied today, they appear wholly inhumane. If you do that kind of stuff that is in those sacred documents, sacred religious work, if you do that kind of stuff nowadays, it would be considered widely inhumane and it would be illegal in most places on earth. The modern believer has his master replaced. Many have abandoned the old laws but now serve other authorities. Yes, they have stopped following the 613 laws of the Old Testament and the 1050 laws of the New Testament. They have abandoned that, but they have just chosen a new master. It's dangerous. The light makes me more blind. And there are obstacles I will run into. That's quite dangerous. The light of my camera, you can see me because it's now dark. They have changed masters. They have abandoned the old laws, but now serve other authorities. They have changed masters to democratic rulers without learning to live free. Because they never wanted to live free. They always want somebody to tell them what to do. They always want a code of law. And most of those religious documents are not spiritual quests. They are just a document of law with commandments, and you have to obey them because it's considered divine law. No questioning allowed, just obeying or damnation and punishments while you're alive. Very harsh punishment, like I've told you. The punishments are slavery, stoning, and holy war. It's really bad. You won't enjoy that a lot if that happens again. They have changed masters to a democratic ruler without learning to live free. They never wanted to be free. They always wanted somebody who tell them what to do so that they don't have to think. Because most people are anti-philosophical, at least nowadays. They don't like thinking. They're very scared of having their own thoughts, of thinking about things themselves, of learning that they can decide what is good or evil. That doesn't mean they can do whatever they want. It just means that they can discover for themselves what is good and evil. And philosophy will teach you that. People have never learned to live free or even aspired to live free. They always wanted somebody to be the master and tell them what to do. And they find it in religious figures or sacred religious books, or they ask for a democratic ruler to tell them what to do. But it's the same thing. They're never free. They're always dependent on somebody else, and they always do what that person does, even if it goes against their morality, even if it goes against anything that is good or acceptable. Philosophy, free counsel. Philosophy is free counsel. The philosopher offers a path but does not punish refusal. Freedom of choice is sacred, and he remains your friend whatever you do, say or think. That's a huge difference between religions and any law and philosophy. We never punish you. We never go after you. We never despise you. We let you think whatever you want. We will just not agree with it, and we will tell you why we do not agree with it. But we will never punish you, expel you, or condemn you to eternal flames. We will never do that. Religious condemnation of doubt. Questioning divine law is seen as treachery. Doubt becomes a spiritual crime. Thinking, arguing, discussing stuff is, by definition, a philosophical crime in their sphere, with what they do, because it goes against divine law, and there's no freedom there. It is just divine law. You have to obey. You cannot change your opinion. You cannot not agree or realize that the times have changed. None of that exists. It is divine law, and you have to obey it. That's all. Natural law, just, incorruptible. The real thing is totally different. It is called natural law, and this one is incorruptible. It's a law that knows no vengeance or hell. It imposes itself through its purity and goodness. It imposes itself through its purity and goodness. And it is accessible to all without confession or religious ritual. You don't need a church or anything else to get in touch with divine law. And it's the definition of goodness. It will never expel anybody. It will never do any harm on purpose to anybody. So sometimes you think it's cruel. That's only the case because you're not philosophic enough to accept the condition under which you live on earth. But you can learn that. That's why philosophy exists, and it will teach you that. So reason is light without threat. True wisdom enlightens without constraining. It invites one to follow virtue by choice, not by fear. When you go through real wisdom, when you listen to what philosophy teaches you, it will invite you to wisdom. Not every philosophy. Only Stoicism does that. Because the other ones are all corrupted. The other ones were just made so that you have some nice time, so that you think life is easy and fun. But something more sincere will tell you to follow virtue by choice, not by fear, because it's the only thing that can make you happy. Look at me. I've worked 17 hours a day. It is Sunday today. It is dark, and I still make a video for you, a vlog. I still discuss what I think. I'm passionate about philosophy. I'm passionate about new ideas. And I like to refute stuff that is obviously wrong, so that people don't always fall for it, so that people stop being so naive and can be manipulated so easily. But look, I take never a day off. There are no vacations. There are no off days. There's no weekend for me. Sunday is the same as Monday. Monday is the same as Wednesday. And Wednesday is the same as Saturday to me. It makes no difference. Yes, the shop closes, but that's a joke. I never agreed with that anyways. From the beginning, I understand that people who have a very boring job and never want to do it during their entire life, but are obliged to do it just to put some food on the table. I understand that for them it might be quite nice that they don't have to work on the weekends. That's not me. I want to work 17 hours a day, every day, until I die. The only thing I hope is that my intellect, that my brain will function long enough. I can keep doing that every day until I die. That's the only thing that interests me. That's the only thing that makes me happy. If I know that I did the maximum I can do, because that's all I can do. That's all we ask of people as Stoics. We just ask of you that you try to do the best you can. And a lot of people can. You can become much better. What I can do today, I wasn't able to do it 5 years or 10 years ago. I've learned a lot. If I can learn much in such a small period of time, I'm sure you can do as good as I can. I even believe that you can do much better than what I do. It's very sad that the society has dulled you down, that you have lost every kind of creativity, and that you believe all the nonsense that is on the propaganda box, the TV, and that you always refuse to grow up, to become a real man, not somebody who follows blindly orders that you should never listen to. You should not even know that they exist, but they are. Now, it is good to sometimes take a look at them, but just to refute them, just to not follow them. I'm telling you, but if I do that, I will be sanctioned. You have to find a way to live under the system you are. Everybody had to do that. In antiquity, they had their system with slavery, and people still have to try to become free. But then at least they wanted to be free. Now everybody just wants to be a slave, and the biggest slave possible. And that's very concerning. And they're very proud of being a slave. The more they obey the system, the more taxes they pay, the more atrocities they commit all over the world, the happier they are. Actually, they're not happy. But the better people they think they are. They think that that is morality. They think that that is what you have to do as a human being. Because they get manipulated. How they trick you into going to war, they never tell you the truth. They never tell you that it's for political reasons. That they just want some more petrol, some more territory, some more slaves in a different country that they can submit to their authority, to their propaganda. They never tell you that. They tell you that it is important because if you don't, your friends and your family members will get hurt. And most people then react and try to defend. But it's a trick. There was never any real danger. The danger is all made up. It is created. And there are a lot of false flags that happen all the time. If you look into history, you'll find that it's not exactly what they teach you. History was written by a guy Caesar employed, and he told him what to put in the history book. Do you really think that nowadays it is really different? Do you really think there are independent people like you can trust? Let's say the Red Cross. Do you really think that they exist and that they examine the facts and they really want to find the truth? They're not interested in that at all. They're interested in putting out their propaganda, and you believe it without questioning it. They always did, and they always will, as long as the system exists as it is, and there's nothing changing it. And there's no election that will ever change it in any way. As long as that's the case, people will only hear propaganda, and they believe it. Because if you tell the same lie over and over, people start believing it. It's a human thing. Every society worked under that principle. People are very scared of thinking on their own. Like me, look, it's all dark. It's scary. Who knows who's behind me? And who knows what that guy will do? They get very scared. And because they are scared, then they look for a savior. And their savior is, in the best case scenario, Jesus, and in the worst case scenario, Kim Jong-un. It's not that Jesus is a bad man. I've never said that. I have the highest opinion of Jesus. But religion goes far beyond what Jesus was and did. If you want to be like Jesus, that's all great. I'm 100% for it. But you have to understand who Jesus was and what he did and what gave him this immense courage he had. If you can do that, nobody else could until now. But if you can do that, of course I will admire you and approve of you. But nobody does that. No religious figures, no popes, nobody comes in any way close to him. That's the issue. And while they do not come close to him, they teach you lies over and over. And you fall for them. The only way to change that is to realize that you are entitled in your opinion. By that I mean that you can choose what to believe in and that you can create beliefs that are good for you, that make you happy. Or you can choose beliefs that will make you unhappy. You have total empire on your thoughts. You can choose which one you accept and which one you reject. For example, me, I've published something I really don't agree with. I still did it because I find it interesting that people fall for it and that people believe in it. But I take the effort in telling you why I do not believe in it and why I think it's all wrong. It's all made up nonsense. And I let you be the judge. Just look the other video where they tell you that philosophy and religion is the same. And if you want to fall for it, if you want to believe it, then go for it. And I give you my opinion and let you choose. You tell me what you think and you tell me what is best. I've done what I wanted to do. I talked about what I wanted to talk about, and now it's very dark. And I'll go home. I hope that this night I will sleep a little more than some of my nights. Sometimes I only sleep for a couple of hours, like 3 hours or 2 hours or 4 hours. It's not very much. I hope that I can sleep a little more than those nights and that I will be able to work a lot once I wake up. The only thing I didn't do today is play the piano. But now I feel a lot of energy. Maybe I go still play half an hour. Who knows? But it's already late. It's nearly 10 o'clock in the evening, and it's time to stop and prepare for bed. Since I'm up, I woke up very early. I think maybe at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I had a very long day. Anyways, thanks for watching. Subscribe and see you as soon as I have something else to talk about. Bye-bye and take care.